Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about some of the most important things that people ask me about when moving to Mexico. Again, a little background on me. I'm an American that moved out here to Mexico over 6 years ago. I married a Mexican, and well, I've been telling you guys all about it ever since I've been here. And I've made tons of videos talking more in depth about all of these reasons that we're about to discuss in today's video. But the reason I decided to make this particular video was because, well, I get asked a lot of questions by you guys out there in the audience all the time. I do personal one-on-one consultations, and these are some of the most asked questions that I get asked by you guys out there in the audience on a constant basis. And in my opinion, well, the reason I'm answering them is because, well, not only do you guys ask them all the time, but no one else is talking about them. There's tons of videos out there basically depicting how amazing life is out here in Mexico, which, by the way, spoiler alert, life is amazing out here. But there's just a bunch of things that a lot of people just don't know until they move out here. And for some people, well, once they figure it out, when they get out here, it might be a little too late. And they wish they would have known some of this information beforehand. On top of that, there's a lot of reasons why a lot of people just choose not to move to Mexico because they're afraid of certain things about Mexico and they just don't have the proper or correct information on a lot of these topics. So again, the main reason I'm making this video is just to quickly give you the answers to some of the top questions, comments, concerns that you guys have out there in the audience. And again, if you want more in-depth details on any one of these things, please consult with the rest of my videos or even comment down below, and either me or someone else out there in the audience will give you more background, more information. And if there's someone out there watching and you see that I missed something important that people out there need to know about, well, please feel free to leave it down below in the comment section. As you guys already know, we're trying to build a community here for people that are looking into moving and living out here in Mexico. So let's all help each other out. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Concern number one is drinking the water. Can you drink the water in Mexico? Short answer is yes, you can drink the water in Mexico that comes out of the big blue plastic jugs, basically filtered water. Can you drink the water that comes out of the faucet in Mexico? Short answer, no. I would not recommend it. Now, again, this is something I would tell people that are living in the United States as well. I would not drink the water that comes out of the faucet in the USA, so I would definitely not drink it out here in Mexico or anywhere else for that matter. In Mexico, there is a robust system to get yourself filtered water in your home. Either they will deliver the big blue plastic jugs to your home, okay, and get you the clean filtered water to your home on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, or you can go purchase the jugs yourself at the corner store, at the OXXO, at the 7-Eleven, wherever water is sold. On top of that, if you want filtered water to come out of your faucet in your home, well, you can do that as well. You can purchase a filtration system for your home, and you can get filtered clean water in your home out of your faucet at all times. Concern number two, is Mexico safe? Well, if you're coming from the United States of America, the short answer is yes, it's very, very safe. It's a lot safer than many places in the United States at the moment. In fact, I personally live in Merida, Yucatan, and it's literally the second safest city in all of the Americas. And with that being said, many cities in Mexico, like Guadalajara, which is what you're watching right now in the background, is also one of the safest cities in Mexico. So it's a very safe city. We've talked about safety multiple times on this channel. And again, from my experience as an American that has lived in multiple places across the United States in my lifetime, I can honestly say that I've felt much safer here in Mexico than anywhere in the USA. Its safety is, again, overblown, and a lot of people just think that Mexico is full of, violence and cartels, trying to kidnap you to steal your, measly Social Security check or whatever it is you got. When, again, that's not the reality of it. The reality is that Mexico is very safe. Of course, there are dangers. We've talked about it multiple times on the channel where, again, just as long as you follow common sense and situational awareness, you'll be totally fine. But, again, at the end of the day, it is extremely safe. It's a lot safer than what they make it out to be. Now, of course, there are areas in Mexico, pockets, okay, across the nation in which they are extremely dangerous. There are places that are dangerous, but the reality is that you in the audience are never ever going to be anywhere near any one of these places, so you really have nothing to worry about. Number 3, taxes in Mexico. Do you, as a foreigner, have to pay taxes in Mexico? Short answer, yes, of course, everybody pays taxes in Mexico. Now, what kind of taxes? Well, in Mexico, there is a type of tax called IVA, I-V-A. And what is that tax? Well, it's basically a sales tax. So it doesn't matter what you purchase, where you purchase it, you're going to be paying IVA, which is sales tax. So if you're buying a hamburger, if you're buying a cell phone, if you're buying groceries, whatever it is you're buying or purchasing out there, you're going to have to pay tax on that. So to answer that question, again, do you have to pay taxes? Of course. Are you paying taxes? Of course. Now, there are other taxes that people are worried about, which is like income tax, for example. Do you have to pay income tax as a foreigner in Mexico? Short answer is, well, depends on where you get your income from. If you get your income from Mexico, meaning you work for a Mexican company or you have a business in Mexico, therefore you are collecting money from other Mexicans in Mexico, well, yeah, of course you got to pay income tax. You probably got to pay other taxes if you have a business and so on and so forth. But, as long as you make your money or you earn your money or you're bringing your money from outside of Mexico, then no, that money is not taxed. So you do not have to pay taxes on your Social Security check or your pension. If you are a digital nomad and you earn money outside of Mexico from a foreign company, from your own company, however you earn it, it doesn't matter. You do not have to pay taxes in Mexico. Now, of course, there are other taxes out there that you might have to worry about, such as if you're purchasing a home, if you're purchasing a car, if you're purchasing certain other things, and well, yeah, there's other taxes that you would have to pay, and you'll pay them at the time of the purchase. That's it. Other than that, you got nothing to worry about. Number 4, are visa runs illegal? Short answer, no, they're not. Why would they be illegal? Now, again, you can tell me down below in the comments why you think they're illegal, but again, we've had legal experts on the show, more specifically, Jose Novello. He is a Mexican lawyer. He has come on the show multiple times, and he's talked about this and other subjects multiple times, such as the taxes. That's why we know more about the taxes and other things. But for what we're talking about now, we're just talking about residency, and so therefore, are visa runs illegal? Short answer, no, they're not. You can enter and leave Mexico as many times as you want. Again, there are multiple people that live on the border, live in the border states, between Mexico and the USA, and they literally cross that border every single day. All right? So, no, it is not illegal for you to do visa runs. What happens is that eventually, if after you do multiple visa runs, well, immigration is going to want you to get your residency. They're going to prompt you to get your residency. And there are multiple ways in which you can get your residency. The most popular way in which you can get your residency these days without meeting financial requirements is through the RNE program. Through the RNE program, well, all you got to do is basically prove that you live here. Yes, living here on a tourist visa, and that's basically it, And how do you prove that you live here or you've been to Mexico in the past? Through stamps on your passports or by showing that you've been in and out of Mexico multiple times, such as by doing a visa run. So, long story short, when you first enter Mexico, you can get, if you ask for it, 180 days on your FMM, aka your tourist visa. Okay, and once you leave and you return, you can ask for another 180 days. What happens is that after a while, after a few of these visa runs, the immigration officer will probably tell you, hey, I'm not going to give you 180 days. I'm only going to give you 9 days, 10 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever. And the reason I'm only giving you a short amount of time is so that you can get your crap together and you can go to immigration and you can get your residency. That's it. Number 5, can you drive in Mexico with a foreign driver's license? Do you need a Mexican driver's license to drive in Mexico? So again, short answer is yes, you can drive with a foreign license in Mexico. It's not illegal, all right? It's not like in the USA. It's a completely different world out here. A driver's license is only used for driving and nothing else. So therefore, if you come out to Mexico and you rent a car, then you got nothing to worry about. If you're out here living in Mexico, okay, whether you're on a tourist visa or you got your residency, you can drive with your foreign license. You have nothing to worry about. Number 6, can you buy property in Mexico as a tourist? Or again, can you buy property in Mexico without being a resident? Short answer, yes, you can definitely buy a property in Mexico without even stepping foot in Mexico. So again, I have had Jose Novello on the show, which is a real estate lawyer, a tax lawyer. Again, he's an expert in these fields, not just residency and all the other things that he talks about. And again, he has explained multiple times on the channel that you can buy property in Mexico without ever stepping foot in Mexico. Now, of course, it's not advisable to do that. You definitely want to at least see the property you're going to purchase before you purchase it, and so on and so forth. But again, just for the purposes of this video and, just getting this information out to you, you can purchase a property simply on a tourist visa. Okay, so you got nothing to worry about there. Now, there are multiple ways in which you can buy a property. You can buy a property outright, and if you're not a citizen, you cannot own that property. So therefore, you need to get a fideicomiso, which is a bank trust. So the bank is basically the one that owns your property, all right? And you own the trust that is held by the bank with your property. Now, a way that you can own your property outright without any kind of problems is through a corporation. So yes, even with a tourist visa, you can create a corporation with one other entity. So again, in the USA, you can create a corporation, for example, like an LLC, just as a sole proprietor as yourself. But in Mexico, you need another person. Okay, this other person and you, two of you guys, create a corporation. It could be your wife, your husband, whatever. But anywho's, you both create a corporation, and under that corporation, you can buy the property outright. And guess what? It is now owned by you. It is owned by the corporation that is owned by you. And you do not have to get a fideicomiso, and it is not held in a bank trust. It is held in the corporation that is owned by you. Number 7, Montezumas Revenge. Is this something that you need to be worried about? What Montezumas Revenge is just Mexico's version of traveler's sickness. What is traveler's sickness? Well, basically, again, if you eat something that makes you feel bad and go to the bathroom, well, that's traveler's sickness, all right? Simple as that. Now, I have been here over 6 years and I have never gotten Montezuma's Revenge. Sure, I've eaten things that have not made me feel great. Of course, it happens to all of us. But in my experience, I've actually been sicker in the USA just eating food there on a regular basis. I would just be getting sick all the time over there. But again, that's another story for another day. Is Montezuma's Revenge a real thing? Yes, of course it's a real thing. But a lot of times, again, people just don't take these things into consideration. But if you're eating a taco with your dirty hands, you're probably going to get sick. And it has nothing to do with the taco. It has a lot more to do with your dirty hands that you have not washed, and you are in a different country and you're touching all kinds of things, and you got all kinds of diseases and pathogens on your hands. And not only are you eating that taco, but you're also licking your dirty fingers, and well, before you know it, you're on the toilet. Bruh. And it's not a fun experience. But again, just to emphasize, of course, this can happen anywhere, anytime, with any situation. You can eat bad fish. You can, again, not clean your hands. You might be eating a street taco from a vendor that might not be so clean. But again, just from my own experience as a former cook, a former chef, a lot of these food safety issues, most of it has a lot to do with cross-contamination and just the fact that, well, you probably didn't wash your hands, or the person preparing your food is probably not preparing them in a clean environment, clean area. So again, going back to what I've said before, on safety and other things, common sense. As long as you practice common sense, you can easily avoid a lot of these bad situations. But again, they can happen. Of course they can happen. And from my own experience, I have had a lot worse food poisoning situations in the USA than I've ever had out here in Mexico. And since we're talking about the toilet, the bathroom, we might as well talk about flushing toilet paper down the toilet. This is reason 7.5. But anywho's, can you flush toilet paper down the toilet? Short answer is no, you cannot flush toilet paper down the toilet. That is the rule of thumb out here in Mexico. Now, there are going to be certain places where you will be allowed to flush toilet paper down the toilet, but you should not flush toilet paper down the toilet in Mexico. Now, there are multiple reasons for it. Reason number one is that they don't have the system set up out here like they do in the USA, to handle all of your toilet paper. Number two, there's a lot of places out here that basically use a septic tank system type situation. So again, not advisable to flush toilet paper down the toilet. So what do people do out here? Well, they have a waste basket and they put the paper in the waste basket. Now, the good thing about living in Mexico is that you have the garbage truck, basically show up 2 times, 3 times through the week through your neighborhood. So you have plenty of ample time to discard your dirty bathroom toilet paper. Number 8, the Gringo Tax. Is it a real thing? Yes, of course it's a real thing. Again, we've talked about it multiple times on the channel. I get Gringo taxed. My Mexican wife that was born and raised in Mexico also gets a Gringo tax. And, again, the whole idea of a Gringo tax is just mislabeled. The reality is that when you live in a place like Mexico, which practices open capitalism, well, that means that whoever's selling you whatever, for the most part, they can charge you whatever they want. Now, again, if you're going to a chain store, chain restaurant, chain grocery store, chain convenience store, things like that, corporation, well, whatever price is labeled on the product, that is the price. And if there is any discretion with it, meaning that the price is labeled as 5 pesos, and when you go pay for it, it says 50 pesos, well, you can actually demand that they have to charge you the 5 pesos that it says is charged. And you can actually go to Profeco. What Profeco is that they are a Mexican consumer protection agency, and, well, in the case of a corporate entity, if they basically break the law, because the law says if it's labeled 5 pesos, then they have to charge you 5 pesos, and that's it. They cannot charge you 50 or 500 or whatever they make up at the register. You can basically put in a complaint with Profeco, all right? And if you even just mention Profeco, you mention the fact that you can do this, trust me, they're going to get scared and they're going to go on ahead and honor that 5 peso price that was what you originally saw on the product when you grabbed it and brought it to the register. Okay? So, outside of any kind of corporate entity out there, let's say you're going to the flea market, let's say that you're hiring a plumber or a mechanic or whatever service out there, well, that whole Profeco thing kind of goes out the window. And so they can charge you whatever they want. So when I mentioned that my wife even gets upcharged or gringo price sometimes, is that, well, she just does, because it's up to the discretion of the people selling the product or the service. And it's as simple as that. Sometimes you get the reverse, where they'll charge you less Now, of course, if you don't speak Spanish, or you are basically a gringo and you're speaking broken Spanish, if you have a certain look to you, then yeah, of course they're going to charge you more. It's simple capitalism. Now, I know a lot of you guys might think to yourselves, hey, that's not fair. Well, look, sorry to burst your bubble, but life is not fair. And this is the way it is. If you don't like it, you can just go to another store or another proprietor and just get that service from somebody else, or go purchase that from somebody else. And that is it. Simple as that. Don't be thinking that just because you're complaining to them, just some, random person selling you things at the flea market or selling you things at the local bakery or whatever it is that they're doing, that they're going to budge just because, you're acting like a Karen or complaining about XYZ. Again, if you go to a place that has the prices, they are clearly labeled, whether it's the fruit vendor, the local coffee shop, or a clothes store, or whatever store you go to out there, then you really got nothing to worry about. Because again, if they try to charge you more for the item that's clearly labeled on the shelf, you can just simply say, look, this is what the price says. I'm not paying any more than that. If you're not going to charge me what it says, I'm leaving, and that's it. But of course, the Gringo Tax happens. So if you are dressed, nice and fancy, you refuse to speak Spanish, you're acting entitled, you're acting, like an ass, whatever it is, well, yeah, most likely, they'll probably Gringo Tax you. Now, if you go out of your way and you're speaking Spanish, you go to the store on a regular basis, you're a regular patron to that store, to that person, and their services, well, of course, most likely they'll give you a more favorable price, definitely going to charge you what they charge everybody, and so on and so forth. Now, if you are in a touristy area, you're probably going to get charged more. And again, it doesn't matter who you are. On the flip side of that, if you're living in a Mexican neighborhood and you are the only gringo within that Mexican neighborhood, well, you're probably going to get charged what every other Mexican in that neighborhood gets charged. There's not going to be a special price for you. Again, depends on where you live, how you act, how you present yourself. That's really what's going to determine that price. But I've said it multiple times. Even my Mexican wife that was born and raised out here in Mexico, she'll go to the local flea market and, they'll give her an astronomical price, for a little skirt or, a t-shirt or whatever it is she's purchasing at the flea market. Again, it's just open capitalism. It's just the, Mexican economy out here, and it is what it is. It's not going to be perfect, but it does happen. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it doesn't happen, but it's really more on a case-by-case basis, and it really is determined by where you are. You're definitely going to get gringo priced left and right if you're in Cancun, if you're in the hotel resort area. It's just going to happen because, well, everyone's living off of tourism, and it happens no matter what country you're in, okay? They call them tourist traps for a reason. Number 9, insurance in Mexico. Now, again, do you need insurance in Mexico? Short answer is no. The only insurance you need in Mexico, which again, it's still voluntary, it's just that I definitely recommend you get it, is car insurance. If you own a car or you're driving a car in Mexico, you really, really should get insurance. And why? Well, because if you get in an accident or something bad happens and you do not have insurance, you're going to have to pay out of pocket at the scene of the accident. It's as simple as that. But if for whatever reason one of the parties doesn't have insurance, well, then the police will arrest the person that doesn't have insurance, especially if they're at fault and especially if they have to pay. And you're not going to get released from jail or from custody until you can prove that you can pay, or that you straight up pay what is due at the scene of the crime. It's as simple as that. So it's my recommendation that if you're going to be driving in Mexico, that you need car insurance. Now, again, car insurance in Mexico is extremely affordable, so there should not be any reason why you should be driving without car insurance. Now, car insurance aside, do you need any other kind of insurance in Mexico? Short answer, no. You don't need any insurance in Mexico. You don't need medical insurance. You don't need any insurance. You just don't need any insurance. Now, there are multiple insurances that are out here. For example, like life insurance. Now, life insurance in Mexico is very different than the life insurance in the United States. So, for example, in the United States, life insurance is basically when you die. Simple as that. When you die, you cash out the insurance. In Mexico, life insurance is exactly what is described as. It's life insurance in case anything happens in your life. Meaning, if you lose your job, you can tap into life insurance. If your dog has to go to the vet as an emergency, or you got to go to the emergency room for whatever reason, and you don't have medical insurance, it's okay. You got life insurance that will help you out with medical costs. Again, whatever emergency you might have, let's say you get a leak in the roof and you got to pay for the leak in the roof and it's an emergency, or your refrigerator stops working, whatever it is, you can tap into your life insurance, okay, in order for you to pay for your life emergency. So if you want to get some sort of insurance in Mexico, I recommend getting life insurance, not necessarily getting medical insurance. Now, if you are someone that's going to be in and out of hospitals on a regular basis and you need to see doctors regularly, well, then yeah, maybe look into medical insurance, okay? Now, I'm sure there's other kinds of insurances out there, but that's on a case-by-case basis. But it's not like in other countries where you have to get insurance. In Mexico, you don't have to get any insurance. Number 10, is there Amazon in Mexico? Yes, there's Amazon in Mexico. You can order direct from Amazon.com, in the USA, or you can order from Amazon.com.mx, and you can order direct from the Mexican Amazon. And yes, you can get overnight delivery. You can get basically the same exact Amazon experience as you would get in the USA. Now, my advice to you is that if you're living in Mexico, order from Amazon.com.mx. Okay, so order from Mexican Amazon. Why? So that way you get faster delivery, better prices, and so on and so forth. Okay. If you order from the US Amazon, well, it has to come from the USA, and it's going to take longer for it to get to your destination. On top of that, it has to cross borders. You might have to pay taxes and customs and so on and so forth. So just make sure that, again, you're only ordering from American Amazon if you cannot find that product from the Mexican Amazon. Number 11, tipping in Mexico. Do you tip in Mexico? Yes, you tip in Mexico. I know there's some countries out there where there is no tipping, but for anyone out there that's American coming from the USA and you're used to tipping, well, yes, there's tipping in Mexico, mainly at restaurants. So when you go to a restaurant, you got to pay. The usual tipping rate for a Mexican is 10%. Now, I personally tip 15 or 20%. It all depends on the service. It depends on multiple factors, okay? But that's just me personally. You can tip whatever you want or not tip at all. Now, of course, it's frowned upon when you do not tip at all. But just FYI, there's many Mexicans that don't tip at all, or many Mexicans that tip 10% or less. Now, again, it is definitely frowned upon to tip 10% or less, but at the very least, 10% is the average, okay? That's what most typical Mexicans will tip. But you as a foreigner out there, you can tip whatever you want. And me personally, because I was in the restaurant industry, I like to tip 15 to 20%. It all really depends on the service given to me at the restaurant. Now, with all that being said, is it customary to tip in other situations? Well, yes, of course. It all just depends on you and the service that is being rendered. So if you're in a taxi or an Uber or, at a hotel, those are the usual places where you would normally tip. You're probably going to tip your driver. You might tip the concierge at the hotel. There might be, certain places where you're going to tip. Let's say that you call a plumber and he comes and resolves your emergency in a timely fashion and he's charging you a fair rate and you feel so grateful that you want to tip him extra for just going extra and doing, an amazing job, then yes, of course you can tip. No one is ever going to say no to a tip. In fact, they're going to feel very happy and they're going to want you to call them again with whatever emergency you have because they know that you're an amazing client that not only values their services, but goes above and beyond. And so, well, they will also go above and beyond for you. So tipping culture is a thing in Mexico, but it is not a thing like it is in the USA where tipping culture has gotten extremely out of hand in the USA. It's not anywhere near that here in Mexico. tipping in Mexico is just normal tipping like it used to be. And it's up to your discretion whether or not you want to tip. But like I said, the only place that it's almost mandatory to tip is at a restaurant, and the mandatory amount that you should be tipping is 10%. Number 12, the use of Facebook in Mexico. Now, again, I don't know who you are out there that's watching this video, but Facebook is something that is used on a regular basis out here in Mexico. Facebook is used as a go-to all-in-one app that everyone uses out here. So Facebook Marketplace, well, that's their version of Craigslist. The Facebook groups, that's where people chat and talk about the neighborhood, or they talk about, other foreigners or other expats, or they talk about whatever topic you can think of, they're all in there. But anyways, Facebook is a necessary evil out here in Mexico. I remember when I first moved to Mexico, I didn't have a Facebook account. And long story short, I had to eventually get a Facebook account because that was the only way that I could communicate with certain individuals out there. And the only way that I was able to get certain deals on items or rent for, let's say I'm trying to look for a rental, or, I'm trying to, rent a car, or whatever it is I was trying to do, Facebook is the place to get it done. Now, obviously, if you know Spanish, well, you're going to really be able to take advantage of this because you'll be able to speak Spanish to the other Mexicans out there within these groups and be able to get even more favorable pricing and items and so on and so forth. Now, the negative aspect to being on Facebook is the fact that, especially in the expat, immigrant, foreigner groups, is that there's a lot of toxicity out there on Facebook. Now, again, everyone knows there's a lot of toxicity all over Facebook, but especially in the expat and immigrant foreigner groups. So again, I'm always recommending that if you have any kind of questions that you cannot get answered on this channel or any other channel out there or in the blogosphere or whatever, I always encourage you guys to go into the Facebook groups, especially the local Facebook groups. So again, if you're moving to Merida, go to the Merida groups. If you're moving to Guadalajara, go into the Guadalajara groups. If you're driving through Mexico, go to groups like On the Road in Mexico, where there's tons of people in that group that are there to give you advice or talk about things that are happening on the roads in Mexico, hence the name of the group. But the thing is that when you go into, let's say, one of these groups and you're asking a simple question, all right, so it doesn't matter what you're asking there, a lot of times you're going to get a lot of positive and a lot of negative. It's going to be like a 50-50 multiple times, all right? And that's something that's a little discouraging to some people out there because they go into these groups, they ask a question, and all of a sudden, before you know it, they're getting bombarded with all this negativity that they didn't ask for. They're just asking for some basic questions. In fact, a lot of the questions that I'm answering, in this video right now, and you're going to just see a lot of people out there that are just going to be, basically ripping the people that asked the question a new one just because they don't know that information. Listen, if they knew the information, they wouldn't be asking to begin with. The reason that these toxic people on Facebook already know this information is because, well, they've been living here and they themselves have already asked that question and they got the answer. So now when somebody else asks that question, well, they already, they throw a fit and they get upset and they start, being negative Nancy's, and they're not really providing any kind of useful information out there. So just be wary of that. The Facebook groups are, positive and they're negative. There's a lot of toxicity there, but there's also a lot of positivity on there. So my advice to everyone out there is that please check out the Facebook groups. But again, be careful and take a lot of the things that are said on there with a grain of salt, because there's going to be, again, good and bad in these groups. But again, in my opinion and in the opinion of many people out there, these Facebook groups are a treasure trove of information. And again, there's going to be information on there that I'm just not going to be able to provide because I just don't have that information. But there's a bunch of other people out there, whether they're Mexicans or other foreigners such as yourself, that are more than happy to help you out with whatever questions you might have or whatever service you need or whatever necessity you have to take care of. So please check out the Facebook groups. Number 13, using your bank card in Mexico at the ATM. So can you use your Bank of America, your Wells Fargo, your Chase Bank, your credit union whatever. Can you use your bank card out here in Mexico? Short answer is yes, of course you can use it. Now, you're probably going to have to call your bank and make sure that it's okay with them to allow you to use your own money out here in Mexico. But, long story short, all you got to do is just go to an ATM. All right. And once you put your card in the ATM, depending on the ATM, it will be in Spanish or you'll have an option for English. And depending on how you go about the prompts in the ATM will depend on whether you're going to get a favorable rate or not. But look, long story short, there's a bunch of people that talk about this, and there's many videos on this out there on the internet. But how it works is like this. When you put your card in the ATM, you're basically going to be asked a question, which is, do you want to use the bank exchange rate or do you want to go with the official exchange rate? Always decline the bank's exchange rate. Now, they're not going to ask you the question like that. It's basically what they're going to show you on the ATM screen is, this is the bank's exchange rate. Do you accept it? Yes or no? Do you accept or decline? Always decline. When you decline the bank's exchange rate, then the bank will default and they will give you the official exchange rate, which is always going to be the best rate possible. Now, depending on the bank will depend on the fees, meaning depending on the Mexican bank, depends on the fees. Also, depending on your own U.S. bank will depend on the fees. I've heard wonderful things of banks such as Charles Schwab, where they charge absolutely zero fees, no fees at all to get your money out of the ATM. Now, this is basically the option for people that do not have a Mexican bank account. But once you're out here in Mexico, eventually you'll be able to get a Mexican bank account. And once you do, well, then it's even easier because you'll just be able to transfer money from your US bank account to your Mexican bank account. And then you'll use your Mexican ATM card to go get money from the ATM. Number 14, can you use Uber out here in Mexico? Short answer is yes. In most of Mexico, they have Uber. Not only do they have Uber, they also have Didi or InDriver. Those are the three most popular: Uber, Didi, and InDriver. Okay, and you can use all three of them. All right, now Uber is usually the easiest for you to use because, well, Uber is an American company and you got your American bank card already linked to them. So you can order an Uber and they'll charge you straight to your card and you got nothing to worry about. You just, grab the Uber, takes you to your destination and you're good to go. Now, Didi and InDriver, what they provide are, in many cases, they provide a faster or a less expensive service. So it's a lot more affordable to use Didi or InDriver. Also, another option that you can use out here in Mexico is that you can pay for Uber, Didi, or InDriver, any one of these services, you can pay with cash. That is an option out here in Mexico. So again, if for whatever reason your bank card isn't working, you don't got to worry about it. You can still use these services and you can pay in cash. And in many cases, it's more recommended that you use Uber or Didi or InDriver, but basically Uber, over a random taxi you're going to find on the road, okay? Because again, it's just like any other part of the world. You want to use common sense. So if you can avoid it, don't jump in a random taxi because you just never know who's behind that taxi. Again, this same advice can be used in the USA, but I digress. To come full circle, yes, you can use Uber out here. So again, you got nothing to worry about. Number 15, can you use your cell phone out here in Mexico? Short answer, yes, you can use your cell phone out here in Mexico. Now, it's going to depend on your carrier back home, how all this works. But long story short, if you have a major carrier, like Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T in the USA, you can pay a small service fee in which you can use your phone out here in Mexico without any restrictions. Basically, the same exact way that you're using your phone in the USA, you'll be able to use it out here. But definitely, again, if you got your Verizon cell phone out here in Mexico and you just let Verizon know that you're going to be in Mexico and to make sure that you got the international Mexico plan or whatever, and they'll charge you an extra couple bucks for it, you got nothing to worry about. You'll be able to come out here with your Verizon phone and use it. Now, if you plan on living in Mexico, moving to Mexico, well, at some point, you're going to want to get a Mexican SIM card. Okay, so what you're going to need to do is to make sure that your phone your American phone, or wherever your phone is coming from, that it is an unlocked phone. If you have an unlocked phone, you'll simply be able to just take out your SIM card and then you put in a Mexican SIM card, and now you'll be able to get a Mexican cell phone number, and you'll be able to be on the Mexican cell phone grid, which obviously is going to give you better service. Now, my recommendation is to use Telcel, okay? Telcel. So Telcel is basically the biggest and most reliable cell phone company in Mexico. So my recommendation to you is to get a Telcel SIM card and just pop it into your phone. Now, if for whatever reason that doesn't work, you can simply go to the local Telcel service provider, the Telcel store, and just simply tell them, hey, I have a foreign phone. I put a Telcel SIM card in it. It's not working. Can you get it to work? And then, the employee will simply, grab your phone and flip a few options on your phone. And before you know it, you'll be able to use your phone out here without a problem. Now, eventually, once you're here for a longer period of time, you'll just simply get a Mexican cell phone and then just attach a Mexican SIM card to it. And now you'll be completely on the Mexican grid for the best possible user experience, okay? But right off the bat, right off the boat, okay, as soon as you get here, you can still use your American service out here, and then after a while, you can get a Mexican SIM card and pop it into your phone and use that. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, simply put, is because you're probably paying like $50, $60, $70, $80 a month for cell phone service in the USA, and I pay the equivalent of $10 for my cell phone service out here in Mexico, simply because, well, I use the Mexican cell phone service. I use a Mexican cell phone with a Mexican service, and I'm on the Mexican grid, and well, I just pay $10 a month. That's it. Okay, so it's up to you what you want to do, but long story short, yes, you can use your phone out here in Mexico. Number 16, working in Mexico. Can you work in Mexico? Yes, of course you can definitely work out here in Mexico. Now, will you want to work out here in Mexico? Well, probably not, because you're going to get paid just like a Mexican or less. But at the very least, you're going to be getting paid like a Mexican. And most people, well, that's just not enough money. So what do people tend to do that are moving to Mexico and need income? Well, they become digital nomads, or they get some sort of online job, or they have their own online business or some sort of business, okay? So can you work in Mexico? Yes, you can work in Mexico. If you're on a tourist visa, then you got to get a work permit. If you are on a temporary residency, you still got to get a work permit. Now, if you are on a permanent residency, you don't have to get a work permit, okay? But long story short, if you want to work a traditional job out here in Mexico, you got to be ready to deal with two things. Number one, you're going to be getting paid in Mexican wages, which depending on the job might be enough or might not be enough. And number two, you need a work permit, all right? Now, let's say that you come out here to Mexico and you're working for a company like Microsoft, or you're working for a company like Tesla, or whatever it is. Well, most likely you're going to be getting paid a very high salary in Mexican pesos, which is going to be fine. It's going to be great. But if you're coming out here and you're expecting to work a remedial job, like let's say at McDonald's or 7-Eleven or at the grocery store, well, you're going to be getting paid what a Mexican gets paid for that exact job, which is around $500 US. That's not that much money. All right, $600 maybe, but that's it. That's not that much money. So unless you're getting a high-end, high-paying Mexican job, you're probably not going to work out here in Mexico. You're going to figure out a way. You have to figure out a way in order for you to get income. Okay, so whether you're working online, whether it's teaching English, or doing gigs online, having a traditional job online that you can do from the comfort of your own home, again, remote work that you can do out here in Mexico, you're going to be fine. You're going to be earning in dollars or euros or whatever other currency out there, and you're going to be totally fine because you'll be getting paid a living wage or a pretty good wage, and you'll be able to obviously sustain yourself out here in Mexico. But don't be planning on getting a remedial job out here in Mexico, because you're just not going to get one. Number 17, opening up a bank account. Can you, as a foreigner, open up a bank account in Mexico? Short answer is yes, of course you can open up a bank account in Mexico. Now, of course, there are a few requirements to opening up a bank account, but it's not that difficult. So if you are on a tourist visa in Mexico, you cannot open up a bank account in Mexico unless it's with Intercam. As far as I know, Intercam Bank is the only bank that will give you a bank account on a tourist visa. And usually the people that get that bank account are people that are purchasing a home in Mexico, and therefore they need a bank account in order to transfer the money to purchase the home. But that's it. Outside of that, you know what I mean? If you're on a tourist visa, you cannot get a bank account. But if you have a temporary or a permanent residency visa, then yeah, you can easily get a bank account. All you need in order to open up a bank account is your residency card, a Mexican phone number, a phone, just so you can put the banking app on the phone. You're gonna need a passport, so a valid US passport or whatever passport you have, and a CFE bill, which is your light bill. Now, about the light bill does not have to be in your name. It can be in the name of the person that's renting you the home. They just need a bill so they can have an address to associate with the bank account. So again, a light bill, but it doesn't have to be in your name. So a light bill, your residency card, a phone, and your passport. That's all you need to open up a bank account. Now, if you go to a bank and they say you cannot open up a bank account and you need all these other things that are not mentioned here right now in this video, then just go to another branch or ask to speak to a representative or a manager or whatever it is, or just simply go again to another bank, whatever. At the end of the day, they cannot really deny you a bank account, and yes, you can get a bank account, and it's very simple. You just need these things. Number 18, when renting a home in Mexico, how do utilities work? Now, the reason this is an important question is because in the USA, when you're renting a home, you also have to put the light bill, the power bill in your name, the cable bill in your name, the internet bill in your name, the water bill in your name. You got to get all these things in your name. But in Mexico, that's not how it works at all. In Mexico, basically all these bills are in the name of the owner of the property. And so every month or every couple months, whenever you get these bills, they're going to be in the name of the owner. And all you got to do is take that bill to your local OXXO, or to the actual water company or electric company or whatever it is, and you just pay the bill there. That's it. So you don't have to worry about utilities when you're moving out here to Mexico. In fact, the only utility you have to worry about is the internet. You're going to have to get the internet or cable in your name, but that's it. Okay, that's the only service that you have to get in your name is, again, your internet, your cable bill. That's it. Okay, your cell phone, which again, cell phone has nothing to do with the rental of the home. But when it comes to the power bill, the light bill, and the water bill, and the garbage, all those are in the name of the owner of the home. So again, once you're moving in, they give you the information on how the bill comes and where you go pay and all that good stuff. So you don't got to worry about utilities or putting them in your name. Okay? Number 19, emergency services in Mexico. So how do the emergency services in Mexico work? Same as back home. You dial 911. Now, the caveat here is that as soon as you call 911, they're going to answer in Spanish. So if you don't know Spanish, well, you're going to be in trouble because the person on the other end of the line, they don't speak any English. Very rarely will they be able to speak English. They will only be speaking in Spanish. So just, again, another reason why you should learn Spanish in Mexico because, well, again, if you have an emergency, you got to dial 911 or call a police or even talk to a neighbor. You're not going to be able to if you don't know the language. So what are the emergency services in Mexico? 911. Now, there is also emergency roadside assistance. So if you are out there driving your car and you're either in the city or if you're on a toll road, a federal highway, just a regular highway that gets you from, let's say Merida to Cancun, and you have some sort of emergency, let's say you got a flat tire or your battery dies or whatever happens, you'll be able to dial 078. and that is emergency roadside assistance out here in Mexico, and they are called the Green Angels, and they'll be able to come out there and help you out with whatever you need. So there's emergency roadside assistance for everyone out there, and there's also emergency services just like you're used to back home, which is 911, which will call the fire department or an ambulance or a police officer, whatever it is you need. Number 20, do you need to know Spanish? Again, to piggyback off what I was just saying right now, you don't really need Spanish, but you kind of need Spanish. Because again, let's say you have an emergency, how are you going to be able to communicate with the people out here in Mexico if you do not speak the language? Again, I know that there's a lot of people out there that say that you can come to Mexico and live in Mexico without learning the language, and there's many people that speak English out here, and there's many scenarios in which, again, just your broken Spanish and the person's broken English is enough for you to communicate with the other person, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that, once you're living out here and once you're going to be out here for, permanently, well, you're going to want to know Spanish. You're going to need to know Spanish. It is a necessary evil, unfortunately. Again, just like immigrants that are moving into the United States of America, and a lot of people are always prompting them that they have to learn English, well, it's the same thing out here. You have to learn Spanish. Now, you don't have to do anything. It's a free country and you can do whatever you want. But if you plan on living here, it is, highly recommended that you learn Spanish, because you never know when you're going to need it. It's usually going to be at the worst possible time when you're going to need to know that Spanish. And so therefore, please, if you're going to move out here, learn some Spanish. Enough to at the very least communicate with the other person in a case of an emergency or whatever situation might arise. Number 21, healthcare in Mexico. How is healthcare in Mexico? Well, healthcare in Mexico is great. As a poor American, when I used to be in the USA, healthcare was a luxury to me. Very, very rarely could I really go see a doctor or, go get some meds or anything like that. So in Mexico, it was a pleasant surprise, the fact that I was able to afford doctors out here. Out here in Mexico, you can actually go to farmacia similares, all right, similares pharmacies, and you can go see a doctor there for as little as $3, okay? Now, this is just your basic, run-of-the-mill doctor, just like if you're going to one of those little walk-in clinics, and they'll be able to just do the basic minimum. But, you'd be surprised by how much they can actually do out of that little office, and for the price that you're getting charged. So at the very least, you can see a doctor for around $3. Now, I know that there's more doctors like this out there. I just personally only know of farmacias similares. Perhaps down below in the comment section, you guys can tell me a little bit more of, what doctors you go see out there that are affordable to go see for anyone out there. But even if you're just going to go see a regular, normal doctor in their office, the fees can still be around 15 to 20 to 25 US dollars to go see them, for a regular visit. And if you need to see a specialist, obviously it's going to be a little more, but again, $40, $50 tops. And that's to see the best top of the line specialist doctor in whatever field you need them in. So anyone can afford a doctor out here. And then when it comes to medicine, again, medicine can be pricey, all right? It is what it is. But when compared to the USA, it is extremely affordable. So anyone out there has access to doctors, and they also have access to medicine, okay? So healthcare in Mexico is extremely affordable. In fact, many people out there that are in the USA, sometimes they'll go to a dentist, for example, and they got to get a lot of work done, and it's going to cost them thousands and thousands of dollars, and they simply just go online and they book a vacation out here in Mexico for 3 weeks or a month, and for the same amount that the dentist was going to charge them in the USA, they can come out here to Mexico, get all of that work done, take a 3-week fully all expenses paid vacation, and still have money left over. Okay, so that's how affordable medicine is out here in Mexico. Okay, so not just for dentists, but just about anything. Plus, there are certain things out here that you're not going to find in the USA. So healthcare in Mexico is amazing, and I myself have been able to take full advantage of that because, again, like I said, in the USA, going to a doctor was a luxury. But ever since I've been in Mexico, well, I can go to the doctor for just about anything at any moment's time. So I have access to medicine out here. I have access to doctors, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. That is a huge weight that is lifted off my shoulders. The fact that no matter what happens, I can go see a doctor and I can take care of whatever emergency arises and so on and so forth. Which, by the way, spoiler alert, I have had emergencies out here and I've been happily surprised at how quickly and how good and how inexpensive it has been to take care of whatever has arisen out there. So healthcare in Mexico is a big plus and a big benefit, and anyone can access the healthcare system out there in the audience. Okay. Number 22, how do Mexicans feel about gringos? Again, this is a huge polarizing topic, and I've made whole videos just talking about this particular subject. So I'm just going to briefly touch on it. Long story short, most Mexicans, they love gringos. They love Americans. They love American culture. You got nothing to worry about. Now, of course, just like anywhere else in the world, there's going to be Mexicans out there that don't like Americans, that don't like gringos, that don't like foreigners. You could be Chinese, you could be black, you could be whatever. They're just not going to like you. Again, this happens all over the world. It's not just a Mexico problem. So, again, just to quickly touch on this, how do Mexicans feel about gringos? Again, for the most part, they're going to love you. And if you're the typical gringo out there, the typical foreigner immigrant that is going to tip them good, you're going to treat them nice, you're going to be, a good human to them, well, they're going to love you. They have no reason to hate you. So you really got nothing to worry about. It really all depends on you. I know plenty of people that have come out here to Mexico and they have yet to experience any bad Mexicans out there or any Mexican that has given them a bad experience. And I also know a lot of others that have come out here and all they say is that every single Mexican treats them like crap. Bruh. So whenever I come across another person out there, a foreigner, and they tell me that every Mexican treats them like crap, is giving them the gringo price, they really abuse them and just treat them really bad. Well, I'm always thinking to myself, I think it has a lot more to do with you than it has to do with them. Because what are the coincidences that every Mexican is going to treat you like crap? So, again, a lot of people out there, they just lack a lot of self-awareness and introspectiveness, and they don't even want to look in the mirror and realize that they are the problem, not the Mexicans, okay? So you got to make sure to take that into account. A lot of how Mexicans treat you is going to depend on you. So most of you guys out there, you guys should be able to get a positive and amazing interaction experience with most Mexicans out there, because Mexicans are some of the friendliest and nicest and amazing people out there on earth, okay? And from my experience, I have had amazing experiences with all Mexicans out here, no matter what part of Mexico I've been in. But I would be lying to you if I told you that I've never had a bad experience with a Mexican out here. Of course I had. I've had multiple bad experiences out here with Mexicans, but I can literally count them on one hand. For the most part, most of my experiences out here with other Mexicans have been extremely positive. So, with that said, again, I know a lot of you guys have also had the same situation where most of your experiences out there are positive and great and nice and wonderful. But of course, there's always going to be that a-hole out there. There's always going to be that one person that doesn't like gringos. There's going to be that other person that's going to give you that gringo price no matter what. And I could go on and on. Not everybody is nice. Not everybody is perfect. There's even some people that are a little racist. But for the most part, most Mexicans are going to treat you amazing. And most Mexicans, well, they love you. They love your American dollars. They love, your culture. They love everything about you. So you really have nothing to worry about. And if you are one of those people out there where every single Mexican hates you, well, maybe look in the mirror, because it might have a lot to do with you and less to do with them. And with that said, if you want to know more information on that particular topic, please, I suggest to check out some of these videos that I'm going to be linking at the end of this video or down below. But again, I've talked about this in depth in other videos, just like I've talked about every single one of these 22 items that I've talked about in this video, I talk about more in depth in live streams or other videos on my channel. So if you want to know even more information on any one of these topics or other topics, I highly recommend that you check out my website, which is filled with tons of free information on moving to Mexico and living in Mexico. You can also check out my YouTube channel and just type into the search in my channel, to search my YouTube page for any topic that you might want to know the answer to that I might not have talked about in this video or in other videos. Again, please, you can just type it into the search. So again, you got a lot of wonderful resources, free resources that you can tap into, which is my YouTube page, my own Facebook group, and of course, my website. So again, you got those three amazing resources in which you can tap into to get whatever information you need out there. Again, I know that there's a lot of people out there, a lot of other YouTubers or people on the internet that are selling you all kinds of services to move out here to Mexico. But the reality is that you don't need anything. All you need is to put in that work. Put in that hard work and you should be able to do everything on your own. At most, you might need a facilitator or a lawyer, to just help you with certain things like, let's say, immigration or purchasing a home or whatever, just big things like that. But other than that, for the most part, you should be able to do everything on your own. And especially if you watch my videos and check out my website, all the information is there. But if for whatever reason I still haven't answered your question and you have more questions, to ask me, well, you can simply book a one-on-one consultation with me and I'll be able to have a one-on-one video call with you. And well, you can ask me anything you want or talk to me about anything you want. And each session is around 1 hour, but again, depending on what you have to ask and how long I talk for, will depend on how long the actual session goes. All right, so you have all these multiple resources for you to tap into, and again, you got nothing to worry about. If you really want to move to Mexico, you can make it happen. Again, if anyone knows my story, I came out here with basically nothing. All right, I came out here with $1,500 to my name, a prayer, and a bag full of clothes, and I made it happen. All right, so you guys can definitely make it happen, but it's not going to be easy. And this is why I make these videos, to try to make it as easy as possible for you without you having to spend any extra money. So with all that being said, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to every single one of you contributors out there. Whether you're sending me $1 or $5, you're a patron, you're a YouTube member, or again, you help out the channel in multiple other ways. You can simply just be watching the commercials, the ads in between the video, or you want to share this video with a friend or an enemy or whoever, or you're watching the video all the way through, or whatever it is you're doing. I want to give a big thank you to all of you guys. Whether you're a new subscriber, old subscriber, doesn't matter. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And I want to give a big super duper shout out to every single one of you guys out there in the audience. All right. And with all that being said, you already know the deal, guys. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit that bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.